So excited to be joined by today's guest pitcher in the Toronto Blue Jays organization, currently lacing them up for the Double-A New Hampshire Fisher Cats. Adam Macko, welcome to the walk-off, man. Thanks for taking the time.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, we're excited to talk some baseball with you. To start with, big congratulations on the season you've been having. You're 71 strikeouts in on 55 innings. You've been improving throughout the year and have been pretty much unhittable the last couple outings. So, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know how it is in baseball. That sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. You just gotta enjoy it when it's going good. But yeah, no, I've been very lucky this past couple of weeks.
Yeah, ride those waves, right? That's how it
Yeah.
goes. Let's
Yeah.
uh let's start with spring here because you came into camp healthy, feeling good, and you got the invite to big league spring training, which is great. What were you concentrating on throughout spring training? Like when you started the season, did you have some goals, some things you wanted to accomplish coming into the 2024 season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, learning from the year before, it was mostly just about me being able to be in the zone and be confident with all my pitches in the zone. Like I've learned in the past, when you're behind in the count, the hitters get a lot better. So the main goal is literally just to be ahead, to force as many guys as I can to actually put the ball in play and get on base that way, rather than trying to be too cute and fine and put him on base potentially. So literally for me, it's been just about having that kind of composure every single pitch, to be in there, focusing on I'm throwing this cutter back door, I'm throwing this cutter for a strike, I'm throwing this fastball exactly somewhere. Where in the past, sometimes things kind of tended to snowball on me a little bit, and a couple pitches later, I kind of catch myself like, oh shit, like I got to get back in the zone here. It's been a while, but yeah, I think a lot of it's just been kind of mental adjustments and staying consistent with the routines that I've had throughout the past, like, last 2 months of the season.
That's exactly what I was going to follow up with. Like, is that a mental state to get ahead in the count, or is that a delivery thing?
Yeah, I mean, it can be both. It really depends on person to person. For me, I've spent so much time in my life focusing on my mechanics that it doesn't do me any good anymore to try to figure out what is going on mechanics wise. It's mostly, I would say, 95% of the time, something that I'm doing mentally, that I'm focusing on, not focusing on. Um, yeah, and just kind of playing around with that. It's been kind of a new journey for me, focusing on that side of the game rather than just trying to get the cleanest mechanics and trying to throw the hardest. Focusing on, um, yeah, just the mental side of baseball and sequences and pitching more so than just throwing. So it's been a lot of fun. I kind of changed my focus to that, and it's paying off, I think.
That's really interesting. Why do you think it is that it took you so long to figure out the mechanics that work best for you?
I don't know if it took me long to realize that my mechanics are good enough. I think they were always, I mean, I don't know if always, but I've spent so much of my life focusing on that and trying to overanalyze everything, that I was kind of jumping from one thing to the next. And even when I'm changing something now, it's mostly just feel wise rather than like looking at my back leg or lead leg or whatever. It's just something that want to feel when I'm in the delivery, but it's nothing like overhauling anything. And I think that just helped me settle in and be more consistent. And I've been doing that for the past couple of years, but by the time you really get comfortable with one thing and feel confident in that, it takes a little bit of reps. And I think doing what I've been doing right now for the past couple of years has been good. And just realizing that it is good enough just the way it is. Like there's always going to be something you might want to change, or something that somebody else is doing that you're not, but may not work for me. And I just realized, like, what's not broken, I'm not trying to fix anymore. So yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you can know when it feels good, right? Like know when your mechanics just feel right and maybe trying to perfect constantly isn't the way to go about it. That's actually like a pretty big thing to discover about yourself, no?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, any last year I've gone through that, and anytime you have um a little bit of struggles, it's important that you that you acknowledge that that it's happening and why it's happening, and try to kind of get deeper into things and understanding that everything kind of happens for a reason. So what is that reason? And I guess it forced me to go down that hole of like just get it to feel good. It doesn't have to look as aesthetically pleasing as you might want to, or as I might want to, but it's good enough. And that's, I realized that the lowest hanging fruit for me was something else other than always focusing on mechanics.
Well, it's working out because we're noticing your trajectory going upwards, which is always a positive thing. Curious if the Jays have let you know on inning count or anything like that. Because last year you pitched 86. You're at 55 already this year and really finding some length out of that starting rotation. Do you have like a goal or a limit for this season?
No, I haven't heard anything. Personally, honestly don't really want to hear my limit
Yeah,
or
of course.
whatever. Every time I get out there, I want to throw as many innings as I can. My goal is to get to 7 innings, and then hopefully at some point to 8 innings, for myself. Like that's my own personal goal that hopefully we'll be able to get to as we get into the season and pitch count increase and stuff like that. But no, I've been feeling good. I've been feeling really good on the 6 day that we've been having. But also, I went twice a week on one of the weeks, which is like a 5 day rotation. And
Hmm.
the way that my routines line up and the days line up together, like it fits better on the 5 day, and I feel really good. It feels like if last year it was a week, once a week on the same day, and it felt like a long time in between outings. This year it's better, but the 5 days, like wow, like I just finished pitching, but I get to pitch pretty damn soon again. So it's kind of fun. Um, you never really check out of it. You're always like, oh, I'm just on to the next. You know what I mean? And I really like that. So hopefully, no limit.
Did you notice a difference physically, like just with your arm and your body between 5 days and 6 days?
Not so much. No, you
Really?
make adjustments here and there of the intensity of your catch play in between the outings or the frequency, and I didn't feel much different. I mean, I was throwing against Somerset my first outing on Tuesday. My velo was a little bit down, and then on Sunday it went up actually a little bit. So that was very encouraging to see.
What do you think the biggest difference is for you, anyways? I know the answer is going to vary depending on the player, but the biggest difference for the transition between High A Vancouver and Double A New Hampshire, both on and off the field, because I know we've talked to many players on the show here, and they always talk about how Vancouver feels like a real welcoming to professional baseball because Nat Bailey Stadium's so packed and you get so many fans out there. And, I know we had TJ Brock on and he was just like, yeah, I didn't even feel like I played professional baseball till I got to Vancouver. What is the vibes like in New Hampshire? And just what's the difference between facing hitters in high A to hitters in double A?
Yeah. I mean, Nat Bailey was bumping every single time we are out there. That was pretty electric. I actually got to experience that in my first year of pro ball, coming out of rookie ball for like an inning or two, and it was sold out at Nat Bailey, and I was just shaking in my boots. It was crazy to like feel the amount of people just rooting, I guess, against me at that point. But now it was for me last year, and it was pretty amazing. But I think for me, the biggest difference, I mean, this is probably most people's answer, is just the consistency of it. You have like a lot of the top hitters in high A are going to be your 1 through 9 in double A. So it's really like all the teams are really good. So you really have to know what you're doing. You have to know, trust your catcher, number one, trust the plan that the coaches and the catcher have put together. And also just being able to, for me, mentally lock in every single pitch and not taking a pitch off, and understanding how important every single pitch is of the game. Because all it is in a baseball game, at least for me and I would believe a lot of other starters, it's you take 3 pitches away and it's a completely different outing, whether it's better or worse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So really understanding that every single little thing is important. Like for example, learning to how to hold runners on better, so they're um, just one base shorter than they would be normally. You know what I mean? Like just like the tiniest details, you start to pay attention to a lot more.
There's a real skill that maybe doesn't get talked about enough about being able to be locked in the whole time, right? Because I know, so I make my living as a professional stand-up comic, and you're telling the same jokes all the time. I'm always at my best when I'm in it though, right? And like there's chirping going on in the crowd and I'm interacting with the people and stuff like that. But I have moments where like you can go into robot mode and then like 2 minutes go by and you're like, holy shit, like I'm literally thinking about something completely different from what I'm doing right now. Do you have a trick for staying mentally locked in?
You know, it's that's pretty cool. I didn't know that you were a stand-up comic, so I just that's yeah, I've been watching
Yeah.
a lot of that's pretty cool. But no, I for me, what I found this year is the way when I go out onto in between innings onto the mound, it's just resetting and locking in like it's my very first inning or very last inning, and not thinking, okay, I have hopefully 6 innings, 7 innings to go through today. I'm throwing one inning 7 times, if that makes sense. Like when I
Yeah.
roll out, me literally thinking this is the inning. Like there's no other things, and then eventually you get that down to this is the pitch. There's like it's like you go out there and you throw. My mindset is almost like I'm going out there to throw one pitch, and then I
Yeah.
get the ball back out there to throw one pitch again. And for me, it's literally just reminding myself of that every inning. And little small thing that I do is I count down from either 15, 10, or 3 down to 1. And I know once I get to 1, like I kind of occupied my mind with the counting. And once I get down to 1 and I stop counting, that I'm kind of able to like relax my thoughts and kind of let them go by and just focus on the thing at hand. So that's I guess one little trick that I do.
I love that, man. I love that. So let's look at that on a bigger scale here because I know your success you've had this season. There's already rumors out there about getting that bump up to AAA. But I know this is not something that you as a ball player should be or probably are even focused on, right?
Mhm.
How do you go about continuing to succeed and continuing to be locked in like you are? And also, I know it's you're still a human. It's going to be impossible to do it 100% of the time, but to not focus on the fact that you are getting close to the next step and to stay focused on what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, my entire life, I've been thinking about is being in the big leagues.
Of course.
So that doesn't change. But at the same time, just understand that everything that happens outside of the game is just kind of I have to think of it as kind of just like noise, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of stuff that's going on around me. But just like when you're pitching in a game and you don't hear the crowd around you, you try to kind of block all that out because once you start reading into things when things are going really well, you're gonna read into things also when things are going really bad. And I think that's what I've been good at last year is it tone that out and continue to do my thing and trust my process and you just got to keep doing that and keep having the mindset of like as much as you want to think that you have it all figured out, you never do, and you never want to think that because as soon as you get into that mindset you get away from doing what got you there and then it just goes completely sideways usually. So just being able to remind yourself of times where like yeah it hasn't gone so well and understanding like I'm very close to doing amazing and also very close to not doing so well. It's a fine line and just staying in the for me just staying in the present moment really I guess and just being able to focus on the things that happen in my day today and on the smallest things like getting my routines getting my prep hitting my arm care like just day to day and just having fun with it like at the end of the day it's a game and it's a kid's game and you get to have a lot of fun when you're on the road with the boys and just hanging out and just enjoying it, you know what I mean, like not trying to play GM all the time.
You've had some interesting things already happen to you in your career too. I know my wife is actually from Stony Plain, Alberta, and so her and of course baseball Alberta and even Canada in general was pretty excited that you were coming back in that Teoscar trade. And if you don't mind, I'd love to pick your brain on just some of the emotions that you were feeling in that trade. Let's start with how you found out. Did the Mariners front office reach out to you, or did you find out on social media before they got a chance to? How did that all unroll?
No, the Mariners did reach out to me. It was Andy McKay that reached out to me, and it was a couple days after I got back from the fall league, and I was just kind of catching up on sleep and just enjoying being at home. And it was at like I want to say it was at like 7 in the morning, which is not like crazy early, but for me, getting up at around 10 o'clock, I was just like, oh, like my phone's ringing, probably not some that I need to pay attention to right now. But then I quickly got a text after that saying, "Hey, this is Andy McKay. Call me back." And I was like, "Oh no, I gotta I gotta answer this." So I got up obviously, and
What was your guess as to what it was? Were you did you think right away I'm traded?
um I looked at my girlfriend. And I was like, I might be traded here. Just the timing of it, and the way
Yeah.
when I was picking people's brains, whether it was the coaches or players, when we're just chatting in the fall league, there's certain goals that teams have for you when you're in the fall league. And some of those goals are you build up your trade value. I didn't think that was happening with me. I was just rehabbing there, had to kind of get some innings under my belt. But um, as soon as it was just the timing of like coming right back after from the fall league, I was kind of like this might be a trade, but I wasn't sure, and I was hoping it wasn't going to be. I really enjoyed the Mariners.
Hmm.
Um, but when he called me and kind of was like, "There's no easy way to say this," some really nice words, had a good conversation. You've been traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. I was like, "Oh, like okay, like it could be worse, could be a lot
Yeah.
worse." Yeah, it was sad to be leaving a team that I've been with for 4 years, and my first kind of team where I created all my friendships. But as soon as you let me know it was the Blue Jays, I was like, okay, this is really cool because I was either wanting to be drafted by the Mariners or the Blue Jays. So I was like, okay. And then I got to the complex. I mean, they called me immediately after I got off the phone with Andy, and everybody was very welcoming, and they seemed to be very excited to have me, which felt really good. And then once I got to the complex is unbelievable, so it was that much easier to enjoy being there. But at the same time, the people were even better. So just getting to be in another atmosphere where it's laid back, but everybody works hard, and it's good. Good relationship between the coaches and the players, and the camaraderie between the players. Like we're all like rooting for each other, is very lucky and something that doesn't happen in every single organization. So I'm very lucky to be a part of the Blue Jays now too.
It is cool too that you do have such good feelings about the Mariners organization. What would you say your biggest takeaway from your time in Seattle was? And how does the way that the development system works vary from the Blue Jays to the Mariners?
Yeah, it varies a little bit in kind of like the day to day kind of focuses that you have. Some may be more like mechanics based, some may be more like athletic based, some may be more like pitch based. Others kind of the pitchability of the game. So it varies a little bit, but it's every all the teams are so close to each other that it's really the smallest things that kind of separate them, and um, it's it's hard to tell like in a broader picture how they're different. That they are very
Right.
similar, and yeah, it's just kind of like it's the small things that I cannot be I cannot think of right now. I guess it's something in specific that could be kind of relatable, but they're all kind of similar from um, what I've kind of experienced so far, I guess. But they're good in their own ways at certain things, I guess.
Yeah. It just and don't mind me. I'm it's one of those things that I always wonder about, like how each system varies just a little. And I can imagine it varies, they're still trying to accomplish the same things, which is develop big league ball players. So I'm sure there's mostly similarities.
Yeah.
So you're pitching so well here. You're even being brought up on Blue Jays broadcasts right now. I know they've mentioned you by name a couple times in the last week here. So for the fans who don't know Adam Macko, tell us about your arsenal, what you're working with, what's your out pitch, what's a pitch that you're trying to add a little gusto to.
Yeah, I throw a four seam, uh, something I call a cutter. It's a slider, but I need to think of it as a cutter. A changeup and a curveball. My out pitch um, kind of varies. I believe I have all of my pitches do well enough to produce outs. I think my slider is kind of the least one of those, I guess, or the cutter. But it's metrically not my greatest pitch, but I feel that pitch is the biggest difference in why I'm able to do well is I can just throw it in there. And I don't want to jinx myself here, but I can throw it in whenever I need to get out of jams or out of trouble and throw something other than a fastball. And I could just the 3-0, whatever it is, like it just gets me out of a lot of jams where hitters kind of sit fastball, and I can just slip that in there and kind of get back in, get back in the count. But my metrically my best pitch will be my curveball, and I think the out pitch kind of varies between curveball and fastball, kind of
Right, of course.
trying to make it as least predictable as possible. So making it either the fastball top of the zone or curveball in there or below the zone. But yeah, it's interesting. On paper, I bet my cutter is my slider is my worst pitch, but I feel the best about it. And overall, I guess.
Well, you get your Ks, and this is a big thing in pitching nowadays, is, especially the way baseball is so strikeout home run orientated. If you've got that pitch to get that strikeout, that's a big deal. You're, like I mentioned off the top, 71 strikeouts in 55 innings. Is there a mentality you have that varies a little bit when you need a strikeout, right? Let's say a guy's on third and second and you need one out here to get out of the inning. Do you approach hitters differently, or are you always let's get up in the count and see what happens type of thing?
Yeah, it's I try to approach it in the same way, but just have a little bit more umph to everything that I'm doing. I guess it's always been really attractive to me to strike people out. Um, but sometimes I'll get into trouble. Like I try to strike people out and I try to make too good of pitches. I try to nibble at the corners of the zone.
Being too
And
fine, like you mentioned off the top.
yeah, exactly. And so just me really focusing on that, like I said again, that one pitch. Like if I have a runner on third, I oftentimes think to myself, like, how sick would it be if I got out of this situation? And I kind of put the pressure back on the hitters rather than like, oh, I have a runner on third, I can't let him score. And I kind of try to take that into my advantage. Like I'm sure that they're feeling pressure of I got to score this dude. So if I unexpectedly, almost in my head, it's unexpectedly just get after them immediately without kind of playing around and trying to do some cute like nibbles or doing whatever and throwing like finesse pitches and just kind of getting after them. It sometimes tends to catch them off guard, and it catches them on their heels. Like, oh wow, like I like to just mess around sometimes and just be like, I'm gonna throw all fastballs to this guy, and it's just like it's kind of when you have a good mix going on throughout the game, you can get away with just going off fastballs and trusting the fact that they're just not expecting it. And I think just getting them on their heels when that happens is the best way to do it. So I try to just get right after them.
It's so funny what a breaking ball orientated game baseball has become, being that it really was, if you can hit a fastball or locate your fastball, that was the goal for years and years. And I love that it's like almost gotten to the point where you can trick hitters with just throwing all fastballs now. I love it.
Yeah, that's great. And it feels amazing when you just like, I'm committing to this one thing, and it should be like in theory, I guess the easiest pitch to hit, but then you either execute it well or I don't know, you get a little grunt in there and it works out. So yeah.
Adam, what got you into baseball? I mean, I know you were born in Slovakia, you then moved to Ireland, and then you moved to Stony Plain, Alberta. None of them really known as baseball hotbeds. Was your dad a fan? What got you interested in the game?
Yeah, I got interested in the game when I was in grade one. It was the first day of school, and nobody really knew what baseball was. It's developed a lot, I believe, over the years. So when I look back at the stuff that they're doing now, baseball wise, it seems like the community has grown. But back then it wasn't so big, and my dad wasn't playing. He wasn't a fan of the game. Neither was my mom. They had no idea what baseball was, but it was this tryout that we went on. Basically, anybody that wants to sign up, it was free, and whoever wanted to sign up could sign up, and it was just kind of like an extracurricular activity to do with my buddies, and we all kind of went to that tryout, and we're just having fun and throwing the baseball around and hitting into a net, and it was just we didn't really think anything of it. It was just like, oh, it's free, yeah, why not? Like
Yeah.
it's something to do after school, like with everybody else. So once I got into it and got a couple of, I don't even know how long it was. Might have been, I'd be lying if I knew, but maybe like a couple months of being in this group B. Um, yeah, I turned into like my coach talking to me about, hey, like, would you ever want to go out for the group A? And I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool. I never like thought about like getting better at baseball or never thought about anything like that. But I was like, yeah, like group A sounds pretty good. And that's when it started being a little bit more competitive. And it was like instead of like an extracurricular activity, it was just like an actual like club outside of the school. And yeah, it was so cool getting to be with like older kids that like threw very smooth and hit the ball every single time they were throwing it, or hit it off the tee every time and didn't mess up. So I was like, I want to be like that, and that's where it all kind of started, I guess. It took off, like my love for the game took off a little bit after that, but me just wanting to get better, that's when that kind of was like early grade one, early in school, which is unusual for Slovakia.
Yeah, obviously. You know what's funny too is baseball is hilarious to me because it's like the one sport where being left-handed is celebrated. You know, like I have so many left-handed buddies. My wife's left-handed, and normally all that winds up happening is they're cursing right-handed scissors. But like in baseball, like just being left-handed is a big deal. Do you remember like the first time where just the fact you were a left-handed pitcher, someone was like, not even performance-wise, just someone was like, "Hey, a lefty."
That's a good question. The first time, I don't know. I didn't pitch. I mean, when we were in Slovakia, I remember playing shortstop as a lefty. Like it didn't like handedness was not like the main thing of where you were gonna play. Um, maybe I didn't start pitching until later. We were playing t-ball for a lot of the time, and just before we left Slovakia, I started pitching. It might have been somewhere in there. Um, but I know when we got to Ireland, they were saying from the little English that I knew lefty. Maybe like a couple months into the year of being there, and yeah, it was they're saying that I was like a hard throwing lefty. I guess that's when my first memory of that was. It was when I got to Ireland. Yeah.
Last question before we get to some listener questions here. I don't want to keep you too long. I know that you need to go do some throwing here in about half hour. Have you ever been heckled while you're on the mound? Like I told you, I'm a stand-up comic, and baseball and stand-up comedian are like literally the only two professions where it's kind of socially acceptable for people to get hammered and then yell at you. Have you had that happen? Have you had a heckler before?
I had the one that first comes to mind is when I really first time got heckled. I don't even know if you would call that heckling, probably not to the extent that you might be experiencing it, but it was just funny. It was like I said, I was playing at Nat Bailey my first year of pro ball for like 2 innings or 1 inning. I don't even know how long it was, but it was very little. And one when I got on the mound, everything was so loud. It was a sold out on like a Thursday or something like that. Like it was crazy. It was like an 8 but completely sold out. And I just like couldn't hear myself think on the mound. And like the way that Nat Bailey is, it kind of hovers over you, like the backstop and like the stands in the back. It felt like they were like everybody was right on top of me. And then I couldn't hear myself think. Like you couldn't hear like make out a single voice in the crowd. But then when I got set and I started pitching, there was this one dude that just kept saying Marco, or no, he get like Macko, Polo, and like they were,
Uh,
and I wasn't heckling, but I just remember like, what the hell, what is going on? You know what I
yeah.
mean? But that was the first time that I like experienced the fans acknowledging that I'm pitching and making some sort of comment towards me. And I guess at least that I remember, I've been pretty fortunate with not getting heckled, but also like I'm not against it. Like it fires me up sometimes, and I think
Yeah.
it's kind of when they do it, it's like, oh, okay, like I don't know, it's just fun. Whether you're on the good side or the bad side of it, and I'm sure I've been heckled many times that I either didn't hear or didn't remember, but I don't remember a lot of the things after I get off pitching. So
See, it goes to show you how focused you've become, Adam, right? You're just a stone wall. Try and get to you. Okay. Number one, thank you so much for being so generous with your time, my man. I really do appreciate it. I know a lot of our listeners, you're one of the guys they brought up as someone that they wanted on the podcast. So appreciate you making time. I do have some listener questions for you. Do you have a few minutes here?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So this first one is from Jacob from Edmonton. He says, "Hey Adam, love seeing you moving up the Jays depth chart. How was your time playing baseball in Alberta? And do you think the province is on par with other baseball development?"
I had a lot of fun in Alberta. Just like once I got to um, Canada and experiencing like first like big wave of like a baseball community. It was pretty amazing, and the road trips we got to go on and travel around was always great. I got to play in Best of the West tournament in BC. Got to go to Wood Buffalo, Western Canada summer games, like the bunch of different tournaments that were really really cool experiences. And yeah, it was pretty comparable. I would say Alberta's definitely not um, the worst. It's not the absolute best one I played, but I believe the development there is really well, especially like academies like Okotoks and
Mm-hmm.
Vauxhall obviously being number one.
Yeah.
Like Langley's in BC, but like Okotoks and Vauxhall, like the rivalries there and the development there, I think benefits as a result of those rivalries, and it's a very competitive province, I would say, and definitely getting more so as I'm looking back at it.
Tara reached out on Twitter and she says, "Hey, Adam, love that you're joining the podcast for an episode. You have played in lots of stadiums. Do you have a favorite minor league stadium?"
Absolutely, it's got to be the Nat Bailey.
There we go. I love it. All right.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's electric there. There's been good ones. Um, Hartford here is really good. I love playing at
That's
Hartford.
what, the Yard Goats?
The Yard
Yeah.
Goats. They got like a brand new stadium. I mean, I don't know if it's brand new, but it feels brand new. New Hampshire, our stadium is really cool. We got that hotel in the outfield, which is a nice scenery to be looking at when I'm sitting on the bench nine times out of 10. Um, but yeah, I would say those three that kind of jump out at me at first.
Love it. Okay, last question here, Adam. This is from Marika out of Toronto. She says, "Hey, Adam, love you're on the show. Who was your favorite player growing up? And was there a pitcher that you followed or tried to emulate while you were coming up through the ranks?"
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got into baseball and I learned that there was such thing as an MLB, it was Justin Verlander was the best pitcher at the time, and he threw very smoothly, and he threw very hard and threw hard late in the game, and I love that. So I emulated him a lot. That's how my kind of love for mechanics and getting better and development really took off without me even really realizing it at that point. Then it was David Price for a good bit. And right now, I wouldn't say I'm emulating any starting pitch or any pitcher, but going up through the ranks, I've loved watching Jacob DeGrom pitch. I've loved watching. I like Tyler Glasnow a lot.
Yeah.
He's a dude, especially this year. He's doing unbelievable. But yeah, it's kind of been it's been seasons for me of certain pitchers. It's been like Jacob DeGrom, Justin Verlander, David Price. I know there are more. I'm blanking right now, but Spencer Strider.
Yeah. Oh, Strider's just unbelievably fun to watch. It's too
Yeah,
bad he's injured, but yeah, what a guy.
yeah,
Honestly, Adam, thank you so much, man, for spending some time with us here. Really appreciate it. I know I'm covering some Buffalo Bisons this season. I'm actually down in Buffalo tomorrow here for a couple games there. So fingers crossed, my man, we get to meet in person. I'm rooting for you, hoping you get the call up here, and I'll bug you down the road in Buffalo by the
yeah.
end of the
Absolutely.
season. Fingers crossed.
Please do. Hopefully, it'll all work out. But thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.